evening. This meeting should be quite a good one for us this evening to really wrap our heads around some of what's happening at the facility. So just to get us going, it is 6:05 p.m. We will officially call this meeting to order, and I will run us through the roll call this evening since Ms. Williams is not here. Allison Clark, present. Patricia Culp.
Present.
Ann Phillips.
Present.
Shirley Nichols.
Present.
Jacqueline Rainey.
Present.
Chief Tyus.
Present.
Sean Billingsley.
I do not see Sean here, Madam Co-Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. LaShondra Burks, oh, I know she's out this evening. Okay, Nicole Morado is also out this evening. Jerry Basin.
Present.
Ophelia Lee.
She's here.
Miss Lee is here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Amy Taylor.
Here.
And then I have Christiana Johnson.
I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I know Sharon Williams is out this evening. Tori Tucker.
Present.
Deputy Chief James McLemore.
Macklemore is absent as of now.
Thank you. Hollis Turner. All right. And Dustin Hillis. All right, with that, we do have quorum, so we can get moving right along. I will present to you this evening as a package deal, the adoption of the agenda and approval of minutes from our September 27th meeting. If there are any objections to either, please speak now. And as a matter of fact, I'm so sorry, I should take a second, I'm sorry. If I can, matter of fact, let me take a motion and a second I will make the motion to adopt the agenda and approve minutes as a package deal. Can I get a second?
A second.
Who do I have?
Shirley.
Okay, thank you, Shirley. If there's any objection to the adoption of either, please let me know now. All righty, it is so moved. With that, we can jump right into the fun for this evening. We have a robust presentation on the site and facility stewardship. Marshall, will you be presenting or are we moving directly to Tony?
Yeah, I'll actually take it first and then I'll toss it over to him, to both him and Bob, if that's okay.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Again, thank you all for joining this evening. So as Allison mentioned, we do have a presentation tonight to talk a little bit about stewardship for the site, some sustainability stuff, as well as how we continue our work within the community. And so I asked Mark and Bob and the team from LS3P and HCORE and all of the folks to sort of come together to work through this presentation, because if you guys are like me throughout this entire process, I've even gotten a little lost in, in how we continue to keep up with all of the things in which have been happening out there on the site. And once you really take a step back and realize what has happened since the end of last year to today, it's actually some really cool stuff. And so I'm blown away by the work that the team continues to do every day. So I figured we'd take a second as we laid out those 3 priorities for the next 3 meetings. This one, November and December. As you all recall, this was the agenda item for us to discuss today. So I'm excited about it. I think there's some good ground to be covered. So I'm going to shut up here and turn it over to Mark and to Bob to lead this presentation tonight. So thank you guys for joining.
Thanks, Marshall. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you all?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Well, if I could do a quick screen share and let's make sure this works okay. How's that? Can you see yourselves?
Yes.
All right, now bear with me for a second and I'll pull up our presentation and we'll go from there. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Wonderful. So I'll kick it off, and Bob, I invite you to chime in as well. So thanks, Marshall. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Levine. I'm actually principal at LS3P, leading the design team on the Public Safety Training Center, working closely with Tony and the team. I'm excited that we are at a point in the design where we can actually share with you both some imagery and some imagery that highlights some of the key features and spaces of these buildings, some that the community can use and share, how they blend with the site, but also share some of the sustainable characteristics being incorporated into the design of these buildings and the site, and more so the result of these attributes, and the results that they will have on the occupants and the visitors, and how they'll also result in operational and efficiencies and economies as well. Bob, do you want to say anything before I jump into the agenda?
Well, I'm just going to say hello to everybody. It's been
Okay.
a few months since I've gotten to see y'all and be on a call, and I was like going through the DTs over here. So it's nice to be back, and I hope everybody's doing well. And I look forward to sharing with you and sort of backtracking, as Marshall said a little bit over the past few months about, you know, how we've gone through a process and what it's yielded for us here. So
Thanks,
I'm
Bob.
excited to be here this evening.
So very quickly, tonight's agenda, we're going to talk about what is stewardship. And you're going to hear the term, perhaps you've already heard the term, LEED certification. We're going to kind of demystify what that's all about. In addition, Bob will be going through the evolution of the master plan and what we call responsible site development leading up to where we are today, and some of the community input that you all have provided into the process. I'm very excited to talk about tonight to be presenting to you the public campus. More specifically, the Leadership Institute, the academic building, and the stables, and show you how they've evolved in the design that where we are today. And again, as I've mentioned, these buildings have sustainable metrics and impact, and I want to share that story with you as well. And then we're going to close on a video that we're going to share with you, and we're going to call it A Higher Purpose right now. And it's a story of inspiration that may lead to future conversations relating to some of the community development on this property. So very quickly, what is stewardship? It is careful, responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. And in this case, we'll discuss not only the stewardship of the site itself, but the primary buildings that are going to be located on the property. Again, you're going to be hearing a lot about LEED. And so regarding the approach we use to develop sustainable buildings and sites, you've heard the term LEED before in the course of our conversations. LEED is a program that is administered through the U.S. Green Building Council, the USGBC. It is the most widely used green building rating system actually in the world. LEED, it ultimately provides us a framework for healthy and highly efficient and cost-saving green buildings. LEED certification is a globally recognized symbol of sustainability, achievement, and leadership. Buildings can obtain LEED certification, and design professionals are LEED accredited in order to facilitate the process of LEED design. That's kind of it at 30,000 feet. These projects are registered with, our project is going to be registered with the U.S. Green Buildings Council, and it follows a prescriptive process that includes a project checklist, which you see here on the right. And there's 7 primary categories that designs are evaluated by. It is a totally comprehensive approach to design that encompasses everything from the site development to the indoor air quality. There's 4 categories of certification: LEED, LEED Silver, Gold, and Platinum. And you can see here the 7 categories, and we're going to touch on some of these in the presentation tonight. We go through a fairly meticulous process, and the process begins with a series of what we call charrettes, which is really a fancy architect word for design session. During these sessions, the team determines priorities from the owners and the users' perspectives, and we set a path forward to achieve the desired results. And here's a pic of our initial first goal-setting charrette that was led by Lane Adams, who is LS3P's sustainability leader. The meeting included representatives from the city, the foundation, and the entire consultant team as well. So at this point, I want to turn it over to Bob, and he'll again, talk about the process of design leading to where we are today and today's master plan. Bob?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I'm gonna take us back several meetings, back to one of our early meetings, and we presented this work. But I just want to remind us of how starting with a sustainable attitude, which is really starting with the earth that we're building on and working with that land, it's really helped shape the plan. And in addition to that, this sort of sociological resources that we call here, cultural resources, the sociological resources that are also the community itself, and how y'all's input has helped shape this plan. It's a combination of the two of those, knowing what we're dealing with the land, being open and frank and honest in our communications, and looking for the best answer. I think over time, I'm old enough now with all this gray hair to figure if you got good, honest, working people with good, honest communications, you're going to come up with the best answer, wherever that comes from. So we looked at the slopes, we looked at elevation change, the cultural resources, hydrology in the lower left, and the types of vegetation that was on the site, from the nicer hardwood to the invasive species to riparian zones down by the river, the creek, all of these things that we looked at and put them together. Mark, if you click forward into, if you recall this, the sort of comprehensive analysis where each of those components, steepness of slope, type of vegetation, are ranked from the least vulnerable to the most vulnerable. And where they get the darkest in this overlay system, it represents that which is the most environmentally sensitive parts of the property. And so it's a very simple roadmap that says, try and preserve as much of this as you can and build as much as you can in the lighter areas. It's a very simple roadmap to look at. So we took, if you click ahead, we took what was the early conceptual plan that was done, now several years ago. And we said, well, now that we have real topo and real information, let's lay it over the top of that. And if y'all recall, we were all over the place, up and down hills, into some nice areas, etc. So, but we took that concept and we said, all right, how does that change and bend with the information that we have now? How are we guided by that site? So the next thing we did was, if you click ahead, is to say, you know what, we can begin to change this to fit more like this and be away from the sensitive areas, preserve the steeper slopes, the better vegetation, the cultural resource components to it. But one of the things y'all ask us as we did this is, why do you really need to come across off Key Road? There's an issue of traffic that, we quite honestly hadn't really focused on it the way y'all were asking us to focus on it. And we said, I don't know, let us look at it. And so we went a step further in this, and you click to the next one. And we modified it all again, where the stables that Mark will talk about in a little bit are kind of picturesque up on Key Road itself. And the main entrance is shifted to come across Constitution. So, that to me is sustainability, not only in the sense of environmental sustainability, but as in the sense of community sustainability. And we're, everybody's always listening. Everybody's always trying to say, how do we modify this and make it even a little bit better? So that really led our big moves, our big site plan components on this. One thing, if you click ahead, Mark, remember the order that, yes, good. I do have the order right. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we'll do from a sustainability standpoint is to use a native plant material in restoring this site. And what we do is we look at, all of the different kinds of plants that are native plants, and we look at them. Why will we use them? For screening qualities, for their bloom, for their fall color, for their pollination ability. So each of them becomes part of a system of what we refer to now as not just the pretty landscape, the landscape that we want to be in, but the landscape that's doing a better job of purifying our air, the landscape that's doing a better job of getting rainwater into the ground and reducing runoff and water usage that we have. And the landscape that's creating the kind of food cover and pollination opportunities that really lets nature do what nature does best, and that's manage an environment for us. We take this palette, if you click ahead, we'll begin to look at the site itself to say, okay, where have we disturbed things on the site? Where have we preserved things on the site? You know, what can we do to augment? Because some of the landscape out there is nice and some of it we know is invasive species. So can we remove those and restore those with native plant material, and begin to look at how all that layers into the design? And we click ahead, and then how we begin to use the open space. And one of the key things you'll see here is sort of looking at this notion of social space and recreational space. Because one of the things that we talked about from the get-go on this project was we want this to be the kind of place that the community can come out here and use it on the weekends, right? That there are activities that, whether they're programmed or just walking and enjoying a place, much as people who live next to an academic campus go and walk and use that campus. So it really has that social structure to it. And when we put all that together, you know, we're back to this. This is the illustrative master plan. And sometimes we get sort of lost looking at the pretty picture and we forget about the thinking that goes behind producing this picture. And I got to tell you, just for me personally, it's been an absolute joy to work with you, this committee, through this process to validate parts of it, adjust parts of it, but conceptually hold on to this notion that this is a campus that is a phase one of potentially a larger idea here. And that's another little teaser about the video we're going to show you at the end. So Mark, I think I hand it back to you here to talk a little more.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. So I want to talk to you about the public campus, which is really what we call the campus core, and how the buildings are sited. And they're intentionally designed to speak to each other. They have a similar aesthetic, which I'll show you in a second. There's an intentionality to the axes that are created throughout the site, through the circulation, how we bring the public into the site and navigate throughout the site. How do we that they help celebrate and complement how do the buildings celebrate and help complement the outdoor spaces, which really is a campus, and they're just as important, if not more important sometimes, than the buildings themselves. I want to point out in this diagram, if you look at A and B, A is the Leadership Institute, B is the academic building. That represents about 50,000 square feet of roof area, and there's a proposal to put a solar array, solar panels on this roof, and I'm going to speak to that in a little bit and show you the impact of what that potentially could mean.
You know, the other things that, if you go back one slide real quick, Mark.
Sure.
If you look at D and E, D is really a field that's used in the, you know, from an academy standpoint, and E is the idea of a pavilion that is a dual pavilion. It's a park pavilion, and it's a pavilion when you have graduation, potentially, you know, to have events out there. That field could have cadets on it one day and have kids playing soccer or running around throwing a frisbee or whatever they want to do on a Saturday or a Sunday. And then woven into this, if you see the letters H, where it says stormwater management, this is where we're working to do infiltration of the stormwater back into the earth. And the importance of that is to really, during periods of drought, the more water we have in the earth and the groundwater table, the less affected plant material and habitat is when we get into a drought period. And in urban areas, because of the pavement, we lose a lot of that infiltration. And here we're trying to get it back.
This is what you're looking at is an approach shot as we would approach the buildings, this core of the campus from the south. And Bob, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think there's just a simplicity here of sort of, you know, what will be big shade trees that lean the way in. There is this there's sort of this, well, there's an academy to this. And when I think of the word academy, I think of a certain simplicity and a certain restraint and discipline, if you would. And the landscape here sort of shows that, but it also creates a humanness to the arriving at the site. And so all those begin to work together.
We've also been very intentional to break up, what could be potentially a big parking lot into several smaller parking lots and incorporate stormwater management and greenery in those islands as well. Bob?
Yeah, I mean, here's just an image looking from the buildings back towards, a placeholder of a pavilion there, and the idea that there's any number of events that they can have out here. We often say spaces like this, if you think about plays, every great play that's ever been done has been done on the same flat platform. You bring in the lighting, you bring in the stage setting, you bring it in and you're transported somewhere. So just creating something simple here where someone in the community says, gosh, could we do this here? Well, sure you could, right? So it really becomes that interactive part.
Then, of course, there's the memorial there, which I believe we've spoken to in the past. Right now there's a memorial plaza that is hopefully going to take place between the two buildings, between the academic building, between the community building, and it kind of reaches both of those. And you'll see in some of the upcoming visuals how they connect. Obviously, just a place to pay homage to those who have fallen in the line of duty. It's a place of reflection for families, for visitors in the community.
It becomes a flexible space too. So it might be very introspective at time, but then again, you could have a ceremony here with the names around. This is really past, present, and future all together.
Right. So this is the front door, basically the front of the Leadership Institute, which is, of course, a place that's going to support, has programmatic aspects that it will support, but also provides a variety of assembly spaces and functions for gatherings. It's a place the community is going to be able to use. It's very transparent. It's very accessible. You're seeing the academic building to the right, that two-story structure on the right side. And you can start to see the common language of the materials being used, a simple, what I'll call a sophisticated palette, dark brick, which is intentional to take a backdrop to the landscape, and a simulated wood exterior siding that is both durable, low maintenance, aesthetically pleasing, and is going to be made from recycled content as well. This is an up-close main entrance to the Leadership Institute. It's welcoming, there's planters, seating, it's a very people-friendly space. I wanted to highlight, now that we're talking about the building, I wanted to highlight a few of the areas that the community is going to be able to use. So you're looking at a floor plan of the Leadership Institute. To the left is a lecture hall. Center is the pre-function area, which is the image I just showed you, and then the community room to the right. This is the pre-function area, or the main entrance lobby, if you will. It's very bright. It's very welcoming. There is a nod to the site through the use of what we call environmental graphics, which you can see in the back of this space. To the left is a concept for an exhibit. I believe Tony or others have spoken to you about this in the past. And I know you all started to speak about this in prior meetings. We're not proposing to further that discussion tonight, but just wanted to show you how the architecture can create a backdrop to help tell a story, whatever that story may be. And we'll speak more about this toward the end of the presentation with the video. This is the lecture hall, sophisticated finishes, acoustical treatment. It can accommodate approximately 200. And it's going to be able to accommodate a variety of uses, whether it's lecture style, classroom style, or banquets. So a lot of multiple uses that can be had out of this space. So I'm excited about this space and to talk to you about this. This is the community room, and this is front and center on the leadership building as you approach the building from the campus side. It's for the neighborhood to use. It's very transparent. It has a connection to the outdoors. You can see on the left, this big glass wall actually overlooks the Memorial Plaza. There'll be provisions for multimedia, and it can be zoned off from the remaining portion of the facility so that you can use it after hours, not unlike a fire station multipurpose room. It even has its own restroom, so you can totally isolate and have a nice function in there. Lots of nice volume. You could probably accommodate up to 50 people comfortably in this space. So now we move on to the academic building, which is on the right. And this is not unlike a facility you may find at a college campus or a technical college. Again, the materials palette is very subdued. It's consistent with the Leadership Institute now on the left. By the way, the simulated wood panels are recyclable. I think I mentioned that. And the brick is actually regionally sourced from Columbia, South Carolina, which is going to keep shipping costs down. All of these are in support of the LEED certification. This is the lobby, and this is the first impression that Police and Fire Academy recruits will experience when they come to this complex. It's really an opportunity for the city to truly make a statement that they care about the importance of the commitment of these individuals and their mission. Marshall, I'd like to invite you. Do you want to say anything to this? Because I know this is an important space to you.
Yeah, I was as soon as it came up, it just again, sort of warmed my heart again, because I do think you said it 100% right, Mark, that this is that thing that, we've been talking all this time about this facility. And when you take a step back and think about why are we doing this, we're doing this so that we can have public safety, professionals that are serving the community with pride. And I think we have, again, all demanded and asked for that service to the community to be, as best as it could possibly be and be world-class. And we're now demanding a lot from these folks. And so I believe that we're building this facility in a manner in which it really boosts the morale and the esprit de corps of these folks. And so again, it's exciting to see it come together. So this is, hands down, one of my favorite shots when I think about the interior of that academic building.
Thanks, Marshall. And I should also point out, you can see a 2-story glass wall on both ends of this lobby, a strong connection to the outdoors from these primary spaces throughout, and really celebrate the connection of building to the environment. This is a typical classroom in the building. It's not unlike you'd see at any not unlike anything you'd see at a 4-year college institution. It'll be, complete with technology, flexible, versatile educational learning space. We also have a series of computer labs and flexible spaces. There's actually a partition down the middle of this space, which you can divide it up into smaller spaces where you can accommodate a larger assembly if necessary. So not unlike the lobby, this is the fitness center is an important space on the first floor. Yeah, we have a fitness center. And these are the types of spaces that help to foster pride from within the force. And, again, are very important recruitment tools. Marshall, anything else on that one?
I'd actually say if Chief is on the call, so Chief,
yeah.
You're seeing this stuff. So any thoughts you might have?
No, I'm just like everybody else. I'm ecstatic by these designs, and I'm just grateful that it's incorporating our vision as a police department and as a fire department, but also it's respectful of the community that has so graciously allowed us to come in that community and just be a part of it and just grow a world-class organization. So I'm just grateful for the partnership, and because we couldn't be here without you all agreeing to it. So I think this is a shared vision. So again, thank you all for putting the time in it, Mark, and thank you all for listening to our needs as a department, but also listening to the needs of the community and just bringing it all together. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate the words. And again, on the left, you can see I've talked about expanses of glass and connection to the outdoors. In this case, it's at the entrance to the academic building. So again, recruits coming in will see the fitness center. These are the kind of spaces that get them energized. Something completely different. This is the stables for the mounted patrol. And this will be, as Bob mentioned, this is located on the property along Key Road on the north side of the site. It's a simple agrarian barn. There's support spaces in the middle of this facility, and the stalls right now, a total of 20 stalls left and right of that center space. It's designed, and the color palette is designed to blend in with the other structures, and again, designed to kind of take a backdrop to the landscape. One thing I want to point out, this illustration is a little preliminary, in that you can see Key Road is that road to the north on the upper end of the drawing, and then there's a space between that and the stables. That's actually going to be is a wooded space. We just haven't added the trees there yet. So there's still going to be some separation between that and the Key Road and the neighborhood. And then you can see a snippet of what the inside might look like. It's a stables. So back to addressing how the design team is promoting sustainability in the buildings, I thought I'd quickly mention just a few key areas that we're doing to help achieve this. So first off, the buildings will use low flow plumbing fixtures throughout the project, and this will actually result in a 30% reduction in water usage over the use of traditional fixtures. The building will have what we call a high performance envelope with high R values. And what this means is really it's going to be a very well insulated exterior envelope of the building, the skin of the building, which then combined with some renewable energy sources, as we've discussed, possibly likeliness of solar, will result in energy savings upwards of 45%, a pretty significant number. Further optimizing building performance, I want to mention the use of the renewable energy. And again, the leadership and academic buildings are designed to accommodate a rooftop solar array, which when implemented, this is an interesting fact, and we've done the study, will provide the electrical equivalent to power 27 homes over the course of a year. That's what I call responsible design.
Yes.
Another aspect to sustainable design has to do with promoting health and well-being beyond energy consumption. And the buildings are really designed to promote health and wellness. And by doing so, we help optimize the interior environment that results in enhanced productivity and learning. An example of this is it's been proven and very measurable in schools where simple access to daylight has proven to raise student performance over 20% with fewer sick days. That's a fact. There are other means to achieve wellness, as seen here in this list, using low emitting materials and using enhanced air quality strategies that will also result in increased fresh air into the building environment, just to name a few. As I mentioned, LEED is a comprehensive process, and it's not just limited to design, but also affects the construction process. Construction indoor air quality management and construction waste management, AKA recycling, are two techniques used on the part of the contractor to help the project obtain its sustainability goals, and those will be implemented in this project. Bob, you want to talk to us a little bit about the tires?
Tires are my pleasure to talk.
I know. Tell us about the tires.
Yeah, but I did a little math earlier today because I saw this. 75 tons of tires, and I thought, how many tires is that? And I said, well, a tire must weigh about 25 pounds. Just thinking about it, the average tire. That's 6,000 tires have been removed from the site, and that's not the 85 acres. That's the whole site. That's up around the old farm buildings, et cetera. We've all been out there and seen it. And really, when we talk about sustainability and building a certain way, clearly dumping tires is one of the worst environmental things that someone can do. It's just short of when you burn a tire. That's probably the worst environmental thing you can do in terms of the gases that are put off. So, getting rid of these tires, getting them recycled, get them used somewhere, but getting them out of your neighborhood, get them out of your community. And to think 6,000 divide 6,000 by 4, that's 1,500 automobiles worth of tires. That's a lot of tires come off this site.
Thanks, Bob. Tires. And just to follow up on that, by the way, the tires will now go into a recycling program. So, Bob, I'll start with this and then please add. I wanted to share a story. What to me is it's an inspirational story of how community representatives working with the city of Chicago actually partnered with designers and worked to reclaim and tell the story of what is known as the Big Marsh in Chicago. I don't know if anybody on the call is familiar with this property, but it's in South Chicago. It became, it was a series of wetlands and has been restored to a series of wetlands, and just really fell to industrialization. This is not your story. It's not this story, but I believe there's some common themes that may help provide us inspiration as we move forward and talk about this community engagement aspect to the project.
Yeah, and I think, I think in our modern day dialogue now, there's a recognition that parts of our cities, tended to get everything, dumped on them, put in it, et cetera. And that, now we're taking a different look at that. I mean, again, we go back to 6,000 tires dumped on a site out here over time. And so, not an undissimilar scenario in what we're about to see here. It's what do you do with that? And, I know we've had some conversation and other people, the Nature Conservancy, these, notions. So we just wanted to show this to say, you know what, there's a lot of what if around this, but there's some inspiration too, where other people have addressed it. So enjoy this little few minutes.
This a quick 3-minute snippet. It was the runner-up in a film challenge. The American Institute of Architects has an annual film competition, and where members make videos and submit them on where architects partner with community to create sustainable and more equitable spaces. And again, this was a runner-up last year, so enjoy, and please flag me if the audio is not working. I hope it does. Here we go.
I've been coming to Big Marsh Park to listen and record the environmental sounds here. In 2015, there wasn't much to listen to except for maybe the trains and some of the singing insects over there. So as the ecology recovered, so did the sound.
Most people who go to Chicago's marshlands for the first time can't believe they're still in this city.
Historically, the Calumet region consisted of marshland, several lakes, and a lot of kind of dune swale type habitat. Over the decades, the marsh was degraded bit by bit.
A lot of these spaces were just basically legal or illegal dump sites.
For decades, steelmakers dumped their slag waste here. Cleanup efforts have given it new life.
In developing it into a public park, we did a lot of environmental testing. On the footprint of the bike park and where the environmental center is, there's actually a clean cap over the entire 45 acres of the park.
The Ford Calumet Environmental Center really provides an anchor to all of our southeast side property.
We really needed to think in new ways about how we built and how we structured the building.
The Ford Foundation and the Chicago Park District really wanted a facility that could tell the story of this site.
Lake Calumet got a great history that it needs to be always told.
When you go into the building, it really does a fantastic job of just giving you the history of the Calumet area, going through all the stages, pre-settlement, the industrial age, the environmental reawakening, birds and wildlife of the area.
Highlighting individuals, groups, and also moments in time that as industry, environment, and community has developed around Big Marsh.
And part of the reclamation story is the building itself. The mass timber structure, as well as the constructed wastewater wetland system, that's a system that processes the building's black water on site, are intentionally put on display.
It's really a wonderful example of how architecture can be combined with other media to deliver a very powerful message.
It is in a Black and a brown community, and it's still in an urban environment. And that's important because there's not a lot of recognition of those kind of spaces.
And we should have a place where we can learn and strategize around what happened in the past, what's going on now, so we could plan for the future.
There was a need to connect people with their environment. There was a need for recovering of gray fields, and not just for the sake of development, but for the sake of working with the community to improve it.
That's it. Again, not this story, but a story with many common themes. And I hope it provides everybody on the call with a little bit of inspiration and optimism as we move forward in our conversations. Marshall, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and turn it back to you.
Yeah, well, I know we'll have some folks may have some questions or comments, so we can definitely get to those. But I first want to say, obviously, Mark and Bob, thank you all for putting together that presentation. You guys actually put some work into that. I was actually impressed. You guys actually do work during the day. I'm just kidding, but thank you all so much. Really, honestly, fabulous presentation. And again, just to the CSAC, just thank you all for your input and your guidance, because when we first started this journey back again in September, you guys were hard on me. You know, it was a lot of tough questions. It was a lot of conversations about, you know, how are we going to do this in a way that was responsible. And so that was in turn my challenge to the team, to make sure that at every single turn we could do every single thing that we possibly believe we can do in order to make sure that this is something that is, again, beneficial to the community and the environment. And so I just appreciate the entire development team for also stepping up to the challenge and also owning it and being a part of making this thing happen. So with that being said, I'll shut up. Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to you and anyone else for questions or comments.
Well, thank you all so very much for that presentation. I think it is exactly what we needed. I am incredibly impressed by what I've seen tonight, and then the thought and consideration that has been given to the feedback that you've received from this committee. I think you guys have done an amazing job. So I just want to put that out there and say kudos to each and every one of you for the thoughtfulness that has gone into the design of this project. I do have a question, but before I jump into my question, I want to open the floor to any committee members that would like to take the floor with their questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is it $1,000 a week spa or $2,000 a week spa? I was watching it, that is the exact, I mean, it's so relaxing looking. It has to be a spa. It is gorgeous. You all did a wonderful job. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Not paying $1,000 a week or the $2,000 a week, but I am looking forward to seeing it.
Ms. Phillips, you get the first week free.
Thank you.
There we
Gotcha
go.
deal. Complimentary use of the fitness center.
Okay.
Thank you so much for those compliments.
Anybody else?
Ms. Rainey, I think.
I have
Okay.
one quick question about the horses. You said that there was going to be some vegetation planted between Key Road and where the stables are. Will the children be able to see the horses from Key Road at any point? If they're passing by with their parents, will they be able to see the horses out or anything like that?
I believe there's going to be select views between the Key Road and the stables area and the pasture land.
Okay, that's good.
And that actually, Anne, you touched on the very question that I had, which is really the visibility of the stables from Key Road, because seeing the presentation of what that is intended to look like, that is an absolutely gorgeous structure and campus, and the view from Key Road currently is not that pretty. So having something like that visible would be really, really nice. That said, I want to make sure to recognize, I believe, Amy Taylor and then Jacqueline Rainey.
Hi.
Hi, Amy.
I just had a quick question and regarding solar panels. I believe they're going on the roof. Is that correct? And if so, was there any conversation about doing a green roof instead of a solar roof?
It's a good question, Amy. Yes, they are going on the roof and they'll occupy the majority of the roof. And we wanted to do that versus placing them and taking up greenscape to do those. We explored green roofs early in the process. Green roofs, while they're wonderful for a facility like this, they're very maintenance intensive. And, you know, this is the city of Atlanta, and part of the goal was to give them a lasting project that would be very friendly to maintain and not cumbersome. That's all part of the conversation that led to the solar array being on the roof.
Okay.
You'll also they'll be screened on the roof as well, where they're not going to be very visible to the community.
Gotcha. Are they just going to lay flat then?
Tony, you're on the
roof?
line. Tony's been working with the team on that. Maybe you could
I
comment
will.
to that. Thanks.
Solar arrays are a lot different than they potentially used to be, and that we've potentially seen in the past. You saw a lot that were upright panels, and the efficiency of the panels is actually better when they're at a lower angle. So these ones will be at a lower angle up on the roof, and we're currently investigating providers for it, and that will pretty much dictate the amount of panels that we will have on the roof.
Great. I also wanted to just put an idea up that if there's any kind of overhangs, like say at the pavilion where there's a roof space, put some there, and or if there's any covered parking, you could put some there also. Also, I wanted to ask real quick, as far as concrete spaces go, are we talking about more pervious materials versus just strictly concrete walkways, or do we feel like we've got our maximum space as far as impervious surfaces go?
I can speak a little bit into that as well, Mark, and Bob, if you'd like me to.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Great.
Tony,
So yeah, so we have thought about pervious paving, and the city of Atlanta has used it in a couple of places. The problem is, again, the same as Mark was speaking of on the roof. It sounds crazy, but pervious paving, when you use it in parking lots, gets clogged up with oils and things like that then make it into the soils. So we're actually, like Bob has mentioned, we have a lot more stormwater management at specific places around the site to capture that runoff water, as opposed to doing pervious surfaces.
Yeah, and then Amy, if you kind of think back to the master plan, even when Mark zoomed in on it, with the field in the back, the amount of landscape that we have surrounding the parking and all, our percentage of impervious is way below what you would consider average for a site like this. And so we thought that they're going ahead and spending the money getting it into an infiltration system and stormwater management that way was the wiser way to go in this instance.
If I could just add one more final comment, and this pertains to both the public side and the non-public side. You know, you're going to be running some heavy vehicles over this pavement, fire trucks and ladder trucks, and you know, impervious or pervious pavement doesn't necessarily hold up to that. I will say this, if I recall correctly, the stretch of drive from the academic building up through the stables, however, is going to be a gravel road and not concrete. So we've incorporated some of that where it makes sense.
Thank you for those questions and those responses. Thank you.
Good question. Yeah.
Jacqueline Rainey, the floor is yours.
I wanted to ask about the tires. You were talking about so many tires, and did you all have a grant or something? I know it had to be expensive to remove those, and what kind of recycled products are you all aware of any specific recycled products that are going to be made from the tires?
I can speak to the payment part and then I'll let you guys take it from there.
Okay.
As the payer, yes, it was very expensive. Ms. Rainey, yes, it was. So the Atlanta Police Foundation bit the bullet to remove the tires from the site. Again, it's no way in the world that we could imagine a scenario where we would go over there and do this project and leave tires on any part of the property. So it just didn't make sense for us. We thought, again, for us in our efforts to continue to be good neighbors, it made the most sense for us. And obviously we wanted to do it sooner than later. And so that's why we went ahead and removed them now, even before we started anything on the project.
Mhm.
And then the second part of the question, I'll let
Tony, do we know specifically how they're being recycled? Is it a
Yes,
multitude of products, or is it, do we know singularly on that? I'm interested in the answer to that. I don't even know what it is.
I was just wondering because it looked like it's going to be quite a bit of material. So I was just curious as to what type products would be made from it, from the
Yeah,
tire.
that's actually a good question. And I can, unfortunately, Alan is actually traveling today. He actually coordinated that on our.
And we did talk about it quite a bit. It's kind of funny that we talked about that discussion. I was traveling with Alan today, and Alan really spearheaded that up. There's actually a state program to recycle tires, that they would come and get them, and that would come out of the state funding. But unfortunately, that was never able to be coordinated. And finally, like Marshall said, the Atlanta Police Foundation went in and they just cleaned up that amount of tires. And the recycling, I was interested in it because I didn't understand how they get all the radial out of the tire, but they actually extract that from the tires. That goes into a separate place, and they do grind all of the tires, and they'll be used for things like different play surfaces, not children's play surfaces, but they use those little pellets now in some of the artificial turf surfaces. They'll be recycled into road surfaces. But you don't know where the recycling will go. It can go into umpteen number of projects. It just goes into a general pile. They grind it down and they reuse it. We were discussing today, how the products could be used on this site and the potential for recycling to be used here. Oh, and there is Alan if he wants to.
There's Alan.
Hey, good afternoon. Yes, a great thing we did. Got all those tires off the property, but they also went down to Jackson, Georgia, to Liberty Tire, and they're a major national tire recycler. What they do a couple things. They crush them up. They, as Tony said, they use them as ground cover, so they couldn't make it back on their way back to our project. They also get ground up and are used as fuel. They get ground up and also are used in athletic surfaces. When you watch the Falcons play or whatever, you see a little rubber product pebbles pop up. It's there. And one thing we learned today at our firing range, we'll probably have a rubber bullet catcher, and that is ground tires too. So, and also when they go to the processing, some of those radial tires have wire. They extract the wire out, and also recycle that too. So I think 100% of the tire is recycled now.
Well, thank
Hey,
all
Alan,
of
this
you.
is Bob.
Thank
If our
you.
tires went to the Falcons, will they win more games?
I think so, because we're pretty lucky right now.
They're looking better. I got ahead of them. They're looking better.
These are magical tires, Bob. Magical tires.
Magical tires.
It'll work
thank
for the
you.
Falcons so long as they don't tackle Tom Brady.
Thank you
I
all for the
did it.
information.
It's interesting. I did a quick Google search on it, and it's actually a good percent goes to fuel. It's a recyclable that somehow they reconstitute it back into petroleum.
And one of the things, I think Amy Taylor's going to be interested in this. They're making a new product now, Amy, where this tire is melted down and infused in asphalt to make it more permeable. And they're doing tests right now. As you see asphalt, little spider cracks on the asphalt in the parking lots, they're doing a test right now up north to reduce the number of spider cracks. We're looking at possibly putting that in our asphalt.
Good, they can fill in that pothole that's on Key Road.
There you go.
Well, if we're putting out bids for tire usage, I drive an SUV, so I'm all about the fuel. So I'll take it.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very much for those questions and those responses. Does anybody else have a question?
Nope, I'll just add one more thing,
Sure.
Madam Chair. So I know the video part of it, the thing I loved about the video is that it did speak a lot about the building being used as an educational tool, which I thought was pretty cool, actually leading into what will be our December discussion. So if you guys remember, we talked about those priorities, and that was essentially how we allow the building to tell a story, in which we have, allocated some area and some, we're thinking about art and, and how we engage, cultural affairs and all those different things and aspects within the site. So that'll be something for us to keep in our brains as we move closer to December, because that'll be the topic of conversation. And again, an educational tool, it could educate us on anything, whatever we decide. And so I'm looking forward to that conversation. So thank you guys for that video as well.
Not to change the subject, but since we just mentioned it, the December meeting, according to the public notice we sent out, said December 14th. It said Tuesday, December 14th, but the 14th is actually on Wednesday. So is the meeting on Tuesday or is it on Wednesday for December?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, all the public notices show Tuesday, December 14th. It really should be the 14th.
Yeah, it's actually Wednesday, December 14th, if I'm correct. Is that correct, Madam Chair? Wednesday, December 14th?
That is correct. We're on an off day for December. And so it should reflect Wednesday, the 14th.
Okay. I will have that corrected with the city clerk tomorrow morning. Thank you. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you for catching that. I will ask if we can have that video shared out to the committee for the Chicago's Big Marsh. That was really impactful, and there are several parallels. And so it would be really nice if we could have that shared out to review again ahead of our next round of conversations. That being said, Amy, I see your hand is raised. The floor is yours.
Yeah, can we get the PowerPoint also? Just to have that to just kind of go back and mull it over and really look at it again and see if there's any last minute things that we can all maybe think of or add to or whatever.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, we'll definitely get that out.
Thank you.
Are we at a point where we can show it to our NPUs or our community associations?
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Marshall.
Nope, you go ahead.
All right, well, absolutely, it can be shared. And also the next quarterly report will be coming out, which will have all of this data from tonight included in the report as well, which will have it in a nice packaged format so that you can share it out.
Great.
Were there any other questions, comments, concerns, general gripes, observations?
Careful what you ask for.
I know. I should think about that. I trust you all. I trust you all. All right. Well, fair enough. Well, thank you everybody so far for the presentations and all of the questions and feedback given so far. At this point, we can move into tonight's security update. Chief Tyus, the floor is yours.
Hi, again, good afternoon, everyone. And before I get started, I would just ask everybody with that presentation, please take it out. Please show it. It's impactful. And I think it shows exactly what the Atlanta Police Department and Atlanta Police Foundation is doing within the communities. And I think it will give people a better understanding as to what exactly we're doing out here and just really all the thought that went into the planning for this facility. So if you can get it out to your NPUs, your neighborhoods, your friends, your relatives, by all means, share that video with anyone you can. It does nothing but help us as we talk about the security of that site. And with that, I'll jump into it. So since our last meeting, we've been on that site only 3 times. We went out there October 12th, 13th, and 25th. And all 3 of those dates, we had about 20 to 30 officers on the footprint. And really what we're doing basically is site maintenance out there at this time. What we do is divide those officers into 3 smaller teams, and they just each take a grid and methodically search it for any type of weapons that may have been installed by our trespassers. We continue to find the planks that are filled with nails, and you know, these planks, nails, screws that will significantly injure our officers or really anyone that's out there, because we still have people going out there trying to shoot videos at what they deem the old prison site. So these items are not only harmful to us, but they're harmful to the public. We continue to find the buckets of urine and feces tied to the trees at our ingress and egress location. And I think just talking about the tires, we did remove those 75 tons of tires we talked about. So now what our criminal element has started doing is anytime they see us out there, they try to start brush fires by piling up dead limbs and lighting them. We've been ready for that. Even today when we were out there, that happened. And DeKalb County was out there and they put the fire out in about 6.5 minutes. What we did, we had Department of Public Works come out and remove as many of those dead tree limbs we have. And while this is mildly irritating, it in no ways impedes our progress at that location. We continue to identify individuals out there. We have purchased a new drone, and what that does is allow us to have constant aerial view when we're out there. This new drone also gives us the ability to record. So even today, we were able to get some great footage of some of the criminal elements in the woods. And so we are hoping that the courts are going to assist us in the near future of eliminating that criminal element out there. That's all I have. I'll take any questions you all may have.
Thank you for that, Chief Tyus. Are there any questions? All righty. I will make mention that I was made aware of an incident last week where I think it was some members from the Path Foundation were out on DeKalb's property, just investigating some of the options that exist for connectivity, and they were chased off of the site by individuals on 4-wheelers. And it's just one of those things where as different projects in the area are moving forward, we're continuing to see this element that is threatening towards, you know, anything that seems to be happening in that area, which is a little bit concerning, but hopefully not for too much longer.
Unfortunately, Allison, you're absolutely correct. And so what we got with DeKalb after the incident, what we've asked them to do is the same thing we do, is that they have law enforcement accompany them out there anytime they have to work. So Georgia Power, anybody go out there, we partner with DeKalb. If they can't send somebody, we are more than happy to send a 2-3-man team out there to watch over them as they do their work.
Good deal. Thank you. And yes, these individuals did go out there, you know, unaccompanied, which, you know, in light of current circumstances, not the best idea. So hopefully lesson learned.
Yes, hopefully.
All right, did anyone else have any questions? The floor is open.
Allison, I just wanted to ask real quick, where are we at on the audio assessment, the noise assessment? Or are we still, has that been concluded, or do we know what's going on with that?
I believe that would be a good question for Mr. Alan Williams. Is he still with us?
Yes, but I'm going to actually let Tony Kenny respond to that.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. So we are 50% through. We don't have a lot of update from the last time we talked about it. We are complete with the initial sound monitoring, and we are complete with the EVOC study, but we still have to do the live fire exercise. We're waiting for security of the site at a point where, you know, we're in the contractor and everybody moving on are in full control of the site. And then we can safely get people onto it, obviously by what you've heard, to do the live fire exercise. And that will really give us a better idea of what we have for measurements in and around the site. I know we're still waiting, but we didn't complete it. Well, we're still out there. All we've been able to do is, like, is the ambient sound monitoring, but we'll get out there and do the live fire exercise when it's safe for the officers to be out there.
That makes
Okay,
sense. I know this is something we covered a couple meetings ago, just relative to the EVOC study that has happened to date. And so we're the last piece we're waiting for is that live fire exercise.
That's correct.
Is there any way, and I know there's a security concern here, but is there any way that we can be alerted as to when that's going to happen? Because we have, we hear gunfire all the time, but
Yeah.
so it's nice to know what's friendly and what's not.
Yeah, I'm not in control of the schedule, Amy, but I certainly would like Marshall to speak into it a little bit more, but that sounds like a completely reasonable suggestion. And again, we are taking 16 monitors. So we will do fire exercises at distances of a quarter mile, half mile, mile, and 2 miles from the site in all 4 directions. I would assume, Marshall, that if we give a date for that, obviously we couldn't give an exact time, but we could give the date when that would happen. That would potentially be available.
I will have to have an offline with Chief regarding it.
Okay.
So Amy, I don't want to again overpromise and not be able to deliver on what I say. So I would like to just have an offline conversation with Chief first regarding it. But yes, again, doing it and concluding the study is definitely a priority for us all, which is why if you one of the designs and things you didn't see today was like the firing range and us finalizing what that actually looks like, because we're waiting to, the team is sort of waiting until we finalize the study in order to finish out the programming and development of that space. So we definitely have to do it. We know we have to do it before we final that particular part of the space, but we just are being sensitive to it because, again, it is the safety of everybody conducting the study is obviously one of our most important priorities.
Of course. Thank you.
Fair enough. And to piggyback off of that, while I realize we may not know what day or days this is taking place, are you able to share with us whether or not this study is something that takes place over the course of many days, or if it's something that would happen all in one day? I'm not sure if different environmental conditions would factor into it where you would want to test on different days. Can you give a little insight on that?
I can, Marshall, if you can. So I've seen the CBINE's report. They would like to do it at a 1-day study. They would like to be here and conduct, and obviously you're doing it with 30 personnel as well from APD. So it'd be difficult to organize them all for different days. So they'll do it in a 1-day study if they can get it all done in that time frame.
That sounds good. Anybody else with any questions? All right, well, with that, I would just like to thank everyone who's here tonight from the development team, Marshall, Alan, Mark, Bob, Tony, Bree, John. I see all of you here this evening. Thank you all so much for what you all have taken the time to put together for us. Tonight's presentation was incredibly helpful, and it also lets us see the reality of the work that we've done to date. So thank you all so very much for that. And with that, I think I will go ahead and take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ann. Can I get a second?
Nobody wants.
Let's stay here all night. Let's stay here all night.
I mean, if you just want to stay here, we can.
I'll second Amy Taylor.
Fair enough. I mean, I like you all just fine, but I'd like to go eat dinner now. All right, with that, it is moved that we adjourned here at 7:13 p.m. Thank you all so very much for your time this evening.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.